Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Well, hello there everyone, and welcome back to the AOR official GT3 League on Project Cars 2. We are in Season 12 and we are here for round 5 of 10 of this season. In 1 hour and a bit, we'll be halfway through another season, and that has gone past very, very quickly indeed, it feels like. And for this one, we are going to be at a circuit that I like a lot, actually. One of my personal favorites to drive, and that is the Red Bull Ring GP circuit. That's going to be an exciting race for us, I am sure. I'm, of course, Fisi, and I'm back in the commentary box for you this week to take you through all the action, along with the Project Cars guru himself, Yorkie065.
Hello, and welcome once again. It's very, very nice to be here, as always, to provide you guys with the racing action. I hope that you guys have got yourself a drink, a tea, a beer, a coffee, whatever it is that you're
anything, just any liquid.
Yes, any form of liquid and food to enjoy the next hour to an hour and a half of racing action that we shall be providing here from the Red Bull Ring. Very much looking forward to this one.
Oh yes, it's going to be good. Before we head into qualifying, let's jump on board with Aid the Ace for a hot lap around the Red Bull Ring.
Hello again everybody, welcome along to another hot lap video for the Apex Online Racing GT3 Leagues. This is for Season 12, and this is round number 5 of the Championship from Red Bull Ring GP. This time we are on board with myself, Aid the Ace, in the BMW M6, and we're going to come into turn 1, down from 6th gear, down to 2nd, take 3rd gear early, don't use too much AstroTurf, otherwise you will get a cut track penalty. Then you're coming up through the gears, using that mighty turbo of the M6 to power you along. You're going to move over to the left hand side, brake just before the 100-meter board, down to 1st gear. You're going to manage the traction here. You can use traction control in these cars, but a lot of people choose not to, so you can be caught out quite easily. Then you've got to move over to the left hand side for turn 3. You're going to spot the braking board, 100 meters down to 2nd gear, watch the rear end doesn't rotate on you, and get on the power nice and early, run it all the way out wide for the best exit. Now you're going to move over to the right hand side for turn 4, brake just before the 50 board, manage the power in 3rd gear, watch the rear end doesn't rotate on you, and don't run out into the gravel if you can avoid it. Then into turn 5, another fast left-hander. You're going to take 3rd then 4th gear and just use the curbs to help your way through there. Then you're into turn number 6 and 7, the final 2 corners, and you're going to brake at around 70 meters, take the curb, don't run out too wide, brake nice and early for the final corner, sling it in, get on the power as early as you possibly can, don't use too much runoff, but then that is your run to the line, and that is a lap of Red Bull Ring GP.
Well, a big thank you to Aid the Ace for that wonderful hot lap around the Red Bull Ring. Now you know how to drive it, and hopefully the drivers do too. So, we are now into the qualifying session. A 10-minute session, of course. We have 7 minutes remaining at the moment. All the drivers basically have done their outlap at the moment. We are currently looking on board with the reigning champion, Mr. Jardier, driving that black Lamborghini at the moment. And just a quick sort of reminder about the championship standing situation. And that is that for once, unusually, looking back at the past 3 seasons, Jardier is not the man leading the championship at the moment, even though it did take the victory in last week's race. Jardier is actually 5th in the championship. He has got 4 drivers ahead of him. One of them being Heidi, who has finished 3rd and 2nd after only taking part in 2 races this season and already up to 4th in the standings. M-Power is sitting in 3rd, but he as well has only finished 2 races. He finished the first 2 rounds of the season, and then has had a disconnection and a DNF after that. The only 2 drivers at the top of the game in every single race so far has been the top 2 in the standings, it has to be said. That is Dalking in 2nd place, 155 points for him, a huge gap down to M-Power in 3rd, it has to be said. Let's see the actual gap is wow, 73 points, yeah, crazy gap there. And Operator is 25 points ahead of him. and 180, leading the championship at the moment. But of course, there are 50 points for a win, so even though the gaps are big, many things could change quickly. Yoki.
Yeah, certainly. And as we saw with Jardier taking the win last week in the last round, he's obviously managed to climb himself up a whole bunch of positions in the championship standings. 5 positions actually he gained just from getting that race win last week. So getting a decent result at any point during the season can certainly prove profitable for said driver. And at the moment, currently holding P1 as we come to the halfway point in our qualifying session. Operator is holding that provisional pole. No, he's not. My mistake. Heidi is literally, within the split seconds of me saying that, has actually gone and taken provisional pole.
This always happens.
Yeah, by 200ths of a second as well. So very fine margins.
Wow, the Heidi. Oh, and as we say that, another man taking provisional pole now. That is Dalking, has gone up to first. So fast laps coming in thick and fast. He's already gone back and reset his car in the pit lane. But yeah, that's a 127.8 from Dalking. So the top 3 already into the 127. So very, very fast indeed. Straight off the bat in this qualifying session, which is already halfway through, believe it or not. So many cars coming back out of the pits for another run on fresh tires and a new little bit of fuel. And other cars still driving around. Suomi being one of them, driving through the S's in the middle sector at the moment. Getting a bit onto that curb. Suomi sitting 4th, only a couple of tenths off provisional pole, and Suomi is a man we know from time to time can have blistering performances, even though the championship standings disagree with that at the moment. No, actually they don't, because the reason he's on 0 points at the bottom of the standings, he's actually changed his car, it seems.
Yes, he's gone and picked up the BMW M6, probably my favourite GT3 car, and it's actually a car that suits this circuit pretty well. The BMW's got some pretty good grunt behind it and some good top-end speed, so with the long straights that is here on the circuit, and also it being quite a high-altitude track as well, it's going to suit the turbo cars better than the naturally aspirated cars. They will be at a slight disadvantage, despite Dalking, De Heidi, and Operator all being in naturally aspirated cars and occupying the top 3 spots at the moment. So Suomi could be in for a pretty decent performance in that M6 here. But yeah, he is one of the drivers who has swapped cars. I think there may have been 1 or 2 others as well.
Yeah, actually Suomi's teammate ADA, who we saw the hot lap from. Of course, a couple of races ago you saw him driving hot lap in the Audi, I believe, and now he was doing it in the BMW M6. So both of those guys have changed over to the BMW and dropped to whatever points they had.
He's just gone up to P2.
Oh well. My goodness me! ADS with a stormer.
Yeah, the top 4 separated by less than a tenth of a second. This is lining up to be a really juicy race. I'm really looking forward to this.
It's going to be good. And Jardier has been pushed down to 7th at the moment. Yeah, Empower in 6th.
He's the man on track as well.
Yeah.
Just, ADS has just come out in front of him. Yeah, we'll let him go into this hairpin, although that could be a little... No? Okay, never mind. I was going to say, that looked a little bit late on the brakes for Jardier, but he managed to get it done. He managed to get the apex.
Indeed, and now he's storming down the, well, one of the back straights, I suppose. But yeah, it's interesting to see... well, you say it's far down in 7th place. It's only a matter of just under 0.3 of a second. And there's still plenty of time to go in the session. At least time for a couple more laps. So, Jardier, another one to look out for. This is shaping up to be a really interesting race. Actually, Operator has a reclaimed provisional pole now, just about by 0.04 of a second over Dalking with the 127.8 as well. So now there's 4 drivers into the 27s. Let's see, just follow Jardier to the end of this lap, see if he can join them. He'll need to find, yeah, about a 10th and a half to get into that 127 area. But he's not far off, so through the final corner he's looking pretty tidy at the moment. Just flicking his car onto the apex, not running too wide on the exit there. And just keeping it for his foot on. I hope that is done enough to move up. And he has moved up, but only by 1 spot, up to 6th place.
Yeah, one thing to just note about this circuit and this round in particular is you'll see a couple of guys going a little bit wide, like Empower in the background there. The drivers have been allowed to use that green grasscrete areas off the other side of the curbing and basically use the in-game track limit system that we're using here rather than the white line. So if you see any guys going wide, that's what they're doing. They're basically trying to eke out as much of the track margins as they possibly can.
Oh, that's a lot of track margins for that red Mercedes.
Yep, and there's Operator, just demonstrating it for us as well, nicely through the final turn as well as the black McLaren in the background. As Operator, I'm guessing, is beginning his final qualifying lap with 10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, it does seem like it. Just about cross the line at the right time. There's a few cars behind him as well who will have just started their final lap with a few seconds to go there. So Operator sitting on provisional pole. The Heidi is back in the pit, so he will not improve. The Ace in third. He's on a flying lap. This will be his final one. He's only got 2 corners left on it, and a yellow Mercedes, not too far ahead on track, but should be far enough ahead to not distract him too much. And actually ADAs has given up on that particular lap, gone back to the pit lane, so he as well will not improve. Dalking's back in the pits as well. So Suomi, and he's going slow, so it looks like Operator will be heading for pole position there, unless Jadier or M-Power can pull off something really special and gain nearly 0.3 of a second. Sterovic coming across the line, very interestingly indeed. He will not move up from 11th place with that, I think, and he will not. He is actually sitting 11th, thousandths of a second ahead of Pantera, who we would just watch there get all out of shape. So he probably will not improve on this lap either, and as we see, he just goes off the track as well. And Alexis is in 18th, he is still on a lap. As yeah, most cars in the pits at the moment. Alexis could move up quite a lot of spots. If he only finds 0.03 of a second, he'll gain 4 positions.
Yeah, very, very fine margins between the drivers here at the moment. Just going to really try and attack this final turn, using all that runoff to the exit, but making sure you don't go out too wide and get too hurried that you're massively extending the circuit to the point that you're making it too long. And I didn't get an opportunity to see if he did gain any positions there. I don't
see in a minute.
So
Operator then, yeah, okay, confirmed then. Operator on pole position once again, ahead of his teammate Dalking. We've seen those 1 and 2 very often this season already. ADAs, fantastic qualifying, up in 3rd. The Heide in 4th, Suomi in 5th. Then CJB and Jadier in 7th, and then M-Power in 8th. Jamo and Villalobos running off the top 10. Nesterovic, Pantera, Murph, Deberdsky, JK, Godfather shift to Despak at Alexis, Benesili and Bo in the top 20, and then Cryptic and Ripper and Dakuza, the guys are rounding off the 22-man field, it seems like we have for today.
Yeah, I didn't quite see if all 22 were within a second of the pole time, but the top 20 definitely were. So things are very, very close here, a lot closer than we've seen in previous rounds where there's been a bit more of a spread. So obviously the guys found a very well. We found a very nice track that all the GT3 cars are kind of very, very closely matched on, which is it's very good to see. Hopefully, it'll provide us with some entertaining racing action here for this round, which will be getting underway pretty sharpish in the next probably. Actually 3-4 minutes will actually be we going green. Well, that's a nice shot there.
So if you need to get any snacks, everyone, just hurry up and do it now, because you want you'll be glued to your screens from about 3 minutes onwards, hopefully. Anyway, so just waiting for the formation lap to get underway. Obviously, this track is relatively short. It has to be said. It's not got a lot of corners. It's basically these, well, medium speed corner for turn 1, hairpin for turn 2, slow corner for turn 3, then a couple of fast ones, 4, 5 and 6, and then 2 really fast ones at the end of the lap, 7 and 8, and that's about it. So part of the reason, of course, why the drivers are so close on lap times, but it's yeah, it's just good to see all the guys being, well, such fine margins deciding the grid. Basically, that's always what we enjoy, the competition in this league.
Yep, definitely. So the guys are just lining up for the manual formation lap that we do here. Those of you who visit AOR often probably know how this works, but for any newcomers, the guys essentially drive round doing a manual formation lap. Maximum speeds is about 120 kilometers an hour, 80 miles per hour. I'll drive around single file up until a certain point around the circuit, which I believe is between turns 6 and 7, so on the run towards the penultimate turn. There they shall form up in a 2x2 formation, and at the same time dropping to a speed of 80 kilometers per hour and 50 miles an hour until they get to an acceleration point, which I believe is at the end of the curbing on the axle of the final turn. And so between that point and the actual start finish line, the leader can put their foot flat to the floor and start accelerating hard, and that will signify the start of the race for all the other drivers. And that is basically when we shall go green and when we shall let all the racing action commence.
Oh yes, we shall indeed. So the cars just driving around, trying to keep some heat in the tires, trying to psych themselves up for this 1 hour long race. Just to comment on a potential confusion for those people looking at the scoreboard on the left hand side, we got JAR twice, in 7th and in 9th. That is of course Jardier and Jarmo, just to point that one out. So Jarmo in 9th, decent qualifying for him as well, it has to be said. I think it's his joint best, same as last week, but he has yet to finish in the top 10 this season, so let's see if the fan favourite can do that. We got several people in the chat shouting his name, urging him on for that to happen. And you can see now all of everyone lining up in the 2x2 as we're about to get ready for the start.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things with this manual formation lap is once we actually go green, it's usually better to be in 3rd position than it is 2nd. It's much easier to get that jump on the other guy, purely because it's much easier to see the driver directly there in front of you. They're crawling towards the start finish line now, and any moment operator is going to put his foot flat to the floor to begin round 5.
Indeed, and it's been a fantastic reaction actually by Dalking in 2nd place to keep hold of that. It is ADA's in 3rd, who's been put under pressure into turn 1, but has defended that nicely. Not got the best exit. I think the Heidi might fancy a chance into the hairpin. Dalking is also very close to the operator at the front of the field. There's several cars side by side in the midfield and further back. Let's see if the Heidi wants to go for it on ADA's into the hairpin. He will indeed. He will dive on the inside. Let's try to keep it clean, everybody. Doing a good job to leave room there, and actually the leaders are side by side as well. Dalking has attacked his teammate operator and has claimed that inside line. Can he stay alongside for the braking zone coming up? That will be absolutely crucial to determine the early leader of this race. Dalking is trying to stay on the inside, operator leaving his teammate room there, trying to carry the momentum around the outside, which, if he can do it, will give him the inside for the next corner, of course, which is an even harder one to stay on the outside. And it looks like the operator has done a really good job to make that happen, but Dalking later to get his car slowed down and has held it around the outside to take the lead of this race. Fantastic start from the man who started in 2nd place. ADA's has also kept hold of 3rd, so really good racing already at the front of the field.
Yep, definitely. I think Dalkings may have seen my latest video where I managed to go around the outside of another car in that very same corner. Just got to carry the speed and momentum, but it's all been looking pretty clean so far. The Heidi going for the early pit stop, so is Jardier. Both of them diving into the pits to get themselves out of traffic, try and get themselves into clear air, and then banging the lap times to see where they'll come out later on. The drivers do have to serve a mandatory pit stop here in this race. They don't necessarily have to change tyres or take fuel. They just need to come in the pit lane, make a very quick and brief stop, and then get on their way again. And it seems like we've got a whole bunch of drivers in the pit lane, 5 of them in total.
Yeah, 5 of them, and that is the Jardier, and Alexis, Bo, Heidi, and Cryptic of the 5 who have chosen to take their mandatory pit stop already at the end of lap 1.
Oh, Jardier's got the Heidi!
Oh, yeah, wow, so Jardier's had a quicker stop than the Heidi. Actually, that's very interesting. Which is good for him. He will then have the clear air. The Heidi is going to be stuck behind a car after all, even though he obviously went into the pits to avoid being stuck behind this man, the Ace, in 3rd place. You can see there's a few gaps now forming where those cars who went in the pits were before, which is not really surprising. But the Ace here is keeping up with the top 2. And CJB in 4th now. He has actually picked up a penalty already. 1 second. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a track limit violation. It's running a little bit too wide somewhere along the line. and picking up that 1 second penalty. But yeah, it seems like we got quite a big train of cars here from roughly about 6th position, Villalobos, all the way through to JK, I believe. At the end of this package, we're seeing another car just diving off into the pits there as well. We'll very quickly figure out who that is. It's Villalobos, so the guy at the front of this train. Yeah, Godfather of Shift. Under some pressure from the fan favourite Yamo, but doesn't look like there's going to be a move there. However, JK is going past the Birdski in the background, so that's a move up into 10th position by the McLaren driver, but I think he may actually be coming under pressure once again from Duberski, trying to come back at him up into the turn 2 hairpin, but JK does have the inside line, so he should be able to hold Lamborghini off on his outside there. And it looks like for the moment, unless Duberski gets the good run off the corner, he should be able to do that.
Yeah, it looks like JK ran a bit too wide in the exit there, but he did manage to keep the power down and has to defend into the next corner. The green Lamborghini trying to brake on the outside, but Duberski can't quite get the move done. So good stuff from JK to stay in the top 10 for the time being. I think saw some car swapping maybe around 13th place. To Despac looking very close with Ripper, and they are very close indeed, side by side through the fast sweeping corners here. That's the Ripper on the inside and the Lamborghini. To Despac trying to keep it around the outside, and he's done a good job there. Ripper just leaving the room on the next apex, and that is a move for Tudespac, I think, or defense. I'm not really sure who was ahead before, but in any case, Tudespac is winning this battle as it speaks, and that is Dakusa as well, who started last. Up in 15th, of course. Well, it actually is not surprising, because that's actually the last position of those I haven't pitted yet. But here's another battle, side by side into turn 1. Pantera is losing that one to Suomi, unless he gets a really good exit, which it did look like he actually got there, and he will be side by side coming towards the hairpin. So that's going to be another interesting battle shaping up here. Who will be the latest of the late breakers? Pantera looking like he's braked very late there. Can he hit the apex? He can indeed. And Suomi uses all of that runoff on the AstroTurf to try and keep momentum. They're going to remain side by side, Yoki. Who's going to win out in this one?
I'm not too sure, but I think Pantera is on the ideal line coming into this corner. It's a very tricky one, as the track just does fall away from you as you come into the apex as well. Just lifts the front end away and tend to understeer wide, but the driver's doing a very good job of giving each other plenty of racing room. Pantera trying to go around the outside, not able to do it after having done pretty much half a circuit side by side with Suomi in the M6, who holds on to that 6th position for the moment. I noticed that Duberski has also dived into the pit lane to make his mandatory pit stop. So we've got a whole bunch of drivers at the moment who are kind of near the back. Jardier is the leader of those, leading at the front of this train with Deheidi and Villalobos right behind him. So even though Deheidi's lost the position in the pit lane, he's still very much holding on to the back of Jardier and trying to apply some pressure and giving him some encouragement to push hard to try and keep pace with the leaders.
Yeah, Deheidi must have done, maybe he's just messed up his pit strategy ever so slightly with some setting, because he was definitely stuck in the box a couple of seconds more than Jardier and most of the other guys around him. So unfortunately for Deheidi, of course, pulled off that lap 1 pit strategy to everyone's surprise in the first ever race where we had this mandatory pit stop rule. That was a few seasons ago, of course, at Sonoma, and he ended up winning that race. Oh, that BMW getting very much out of shape. CJB, that's 88 actually in 3rd place, who almost had a spin at turn 4. But CJB just about managing to run in, to avoid running into the back of him, luckily for both of them, really. Even though CJB would have wished for able to take advantage of that, but of course there wasn't really much he could do once he saw a near sideways BMW in his face. Just had to avoid the contact, and he did that well. So where's another battle? This one is still going on in the same place as before, and I think his roles reversed actually, or is it? I can't remember.
Nope, same.
No,
same.
Same. Actually, the exact same. This is deja vu and a half. And Tudespac's going to be on the inside, but he's not got his car alongside. Well, he does now, because the Ripper has gone wide, and that is Dakusa behind them has gone into the pit lane, and that's a little bit of door bang in there, I think. Is it Ripper was run slightly wide out of the corner. Tudesbek still on the inside. This battle will just not end unless Tudesbek... No, it's not giving up, even though the Ripper was nearly a car length ahead. And that is the Ripper off the track. This is door banging central, but they're still keeping it relatively clean and been sub-us for a lap now nearly. And Tudesbek has had enough.
No, he hasn't. I think he might try and come back at the Ripper here. In this happening, it's very, very close under braking. The Ripper was trying to squeeze 2 Desert Pack over in the approach to turn 1 in the braking zone, but 2 Des was kind of there on the inside anyway, and wasn't really standing for that, so he kept his car on the inside, and there was a little bit of a brush, but the Ripper managed to eventually, as 2 Desert Pack struggles with traction out the exit of turn 3, and has lost a whole load of ground to the Ripper. Unfortunately, with that one, so let's jump a little bit further up.
Can we actually go back to 13th? The Heidi has made an important move, potentially in this race. He's passed Jardier, and who is that just behind him? Is that JK?
It is.
I saw
JK
pitted,
go into the pits. He has pitted.
Oh, but
that's
he's
him
had
going
a
off
big
as well.
problem. I'm not sure what's happened to JK, but certainly something that you would not have wanted, and he is now out of the session. But he was somehow in the mix with the Heidi and Jardier. Yeah, the most important thing is that the Heidi is now ahead of the man that jumped him in the pits previously. So he's now the leader of the guys that have done their pit stop, which is definitely important and something to keep in mind going forward in this race.
Definitely very, very good spot there with that one. And further up the field, we got a little bit of a battle for 3rd position. 8th the Ace being pressured slightly by CJB, and Empower is also there, hot on the heels of that Lamborghini in front of him. And this is the kind of battle which the Heidi and Jardier are trying to avoid by making that early stop. They basically get themselves out of the traffic, get themselves into the clear air, just focus on running their pace rather than having to worry about the drivers directly in front of them affecting their lines and momentum through the turns, and just hoping that as the race unfolds, and once these guys actually come to their pit stops, that they end up making the, well, what will be a substantial undercut, because these guys will probably go on until as late as they possibly can before actually making their pit stop. I would have thought that... Oh, actually no, Empire's going for it now. I think he's probably feeling a little bit held up by CJB, and kind of in that situation where you don't really want to lose any time fighting with someone. Obviously you'll stay out until you close that gap up, but once you kind of struggle to actually start to get past and continue to make any ground, it's usually good to just go in and serve your mandatory pit stop if you haven't. So I think we'll stick with Empower and see where he comes out in relation to the Heidi, Jardier and Villalobos.
Yeah, that could be close actually, because remember, I think Empower was the car just behind Jardier when they went into the pits. At the end of lap 1, of course, a long time ago, so I'm not sure what the pace has been like since then, but here they come down the main straight. Whole bunch of cars that have already pitted streaming through, and it might be actually Empower ahead of all of them. And the Heidi, of course, is going to have the momentum on the straight coming out of turn 1, but is it going to be close enough? I don't think it will. No, Empower is now ahead of all those guys and in the lead out of the guys who have pitted. So we essentially have a two field race at this moment in time, where the top 10 actually now have not done their mandatory pit stop yet, and from 11th downwards those guys have all pitted.
Yep, that's a very interesting dynamic that is unfolding here, and I'm wondering if JK possibly interfered and slowed these guys down a little bit, which allowed the Heidi to jump Jardier. Not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure JK was a bit further down the field when these guys came into the pits, and it came out basically right in and amongst them. So yeah, unless he just went straight through the pits without actually stopping in his box and then ran into some kind of issue, we may see JK pop up in the actual chat.
He's fancying this one.
Yeah, he's obviously with the momentum and the rhythm that the Heidi has, been putting in some pretty quick lap times. Previous time round, he's obviously wanted to try and get past Empower as quick or as soon as he possibly can.
Yeah, I think it's going to be optimistic to dive it into turn 1. Turn 2 at the hairpin might be a little bit better, but he's absolutely clung that sausage on the inside of the turn 1 curb, which is going to very much hamper his exit, and I think it's going to be a similar story as last lap now, where he just wasn't close enough to the into the hairpin to do anything. He will of course close the gap, being later on the brakes. Very good braking, missed the apex slightly though, but still keeping good speed around the hairpin, and now he might be within striking distance. Just remains to be seen how patient or impatient De Heide will be here. He probably knows, based on qualifying and the early laps of the race, that he is faster, and especially if Empower is going to slide his Mercedes through the corner like that. This is definitely not helping either of these guys, but it's now a part of the track where it's not really easy to overtake, but De Heide's gone for it anyway. Empower hanging on the outside, where we've already seen a few overtakes in this race already. But I think De Heide might just have it, unless Empower is just picking his line perfectly, running slightly too wide actually. And I think De Heide now on the ID line, coming into the final couple of corners. Just making it hard for Empower, shoving him as much to the inside as he possibly can before getting that turn in. And Jardier might try to take immediate advantage on the outside through the final 2 corners. I think he might be forced off slightly, and he will indeed, but he's kept his foot down to take the position. Possibly they're going to remain side by side, but Jardier's got half his car ahead, and now fully ahead. Fantastic stuff there, but Empower will be frustrated with the way he got past. Even though he did put up at least a valiant effort to keep them behind.
Yeah, De Heide with some very good moves there. He did the little feint on Empower, which distracted him a little bit in the braking zone for turn 3, causing him to go deep. That gave him the opportunity in turn 4, and then obviously was there in prime position on the inside of turn 4 and 5 and managed to get the job done. But with Empower losing that momentum, he lost the position to Jardier as well. Very opportunistic driving by him, but yeah, he's under a little bit of pressure from Villalobos now. A little bit further back down the field though, kind of in the lower positions, although there are a bunch of drivers who are yet to make their pit stop. Bo, the Birdski, we've got the Kuza, and the TMG Cryptic is also there fighting. Starovic is also in there, and 2 Desert Pack also isn't too far behind as well, but we actually got the Kuza, the Birdski and Bo going side by side. And that bright orange McLaren now under pressure from the Starovic as it comes through the turn 4, 5, and now into turn 6 complex of sweeping corners. So I think Bo just got the better run off of turn 3. It was very, very close to threatening the position of that green Lamborghini of 18th place Duberski in front of him.
Yeah, these guys are battling for positions that we have really no idea where they're actually going to be, because there's still people that haven't pitted. Actually now we're looking at AD Ace has been through the pits actually. AD Ace must have been through the pits, because he is now 30 seconds off the lead, but he is 4 seconds ahead of De Heide, who of course will have lost a bit of time battling with both Jardier and Empower. But that is a comfortable gap for the man who started in 3rd place. You can see De Heide and Jardier and Empower and Alexis, and even Ripper, was it?
Villalobos.
Villalobos, sorry, yeah. My bad. And Murphy only a further second behind. Actually, Murphy. Yeah. So,
yeah. There is a Murph and a Murphy now.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
The Murphy has
It's so confusing. So, yeah, there's Murph, not Murphy, in 13th place at the moment. But in any case, ADAs will surely be happy with the gap that he has got to that group after his pit stop.
Yep. Nestorovic has gone and lost touch with Beran Duberski. He's had a mistake somewhere along the line. Looks like there's a little bit of damage on that front left of the Lamborghini. You can see it there on the driver's side. He's lost the position to 2 Desert Pack, which I think has now dropped him into a net last position. But actually, interestingly, the Ripper, not too long ago, was battling with 2 Desert Pack, and is a good 5 to 6 seconds up the road. So either that's come from pure pace, or he's had a pretty good pit stop and got himself in currently 15th position with a few other drivers up ahead who are also still yet to make their pit stops.
Yeah, it's not too far off at Alexis actually, so good stuff from him. looking at now, Pantera, a few of the guys that haven't pitted, of course, yet. Pantera driving at the back of CJB and Suomi as well. The guys who were, well, they were in the lower part of the top 10. They are now essentially battling for the podium on track. And I'm sure Pantera will be happy that he's up fighting for these positions. As you can see him take as much of that AstroTurf as he possibly can out of the final corner. There's another car not too far ahead. Actually, Dalking from the lead has gone into the pit lane.
I'm trying to grab him now.
Watch Yamo coming past as well. But yeah, that is Dalking in the pits from the lead. You'd have thought that he maybe would have waited until late in the race, since he had that clear air. He was not really under pressure. He was 3 seconds, I think, or so ahead of Operator. Was pulling away slowly but surely. But at least you can see no car until at the start of that straight. So Dalking still will be very comfortable. Big gap behind, big gap ahead. Dalking is looking ominous for the win in this particular race. That's going to be nearly 7 seconds down to the Ace, who's got a further 3.5 on Tihaidi and Jardier. So yeah, Dalking looking absolutely sensational at the start of his race after 14 laps, but of course he's still looking for that first ever win in the league after nearly a season and a half. I'm not gonna try to curse anything, but it's looking good.
Yep, picking up M-Power here. He has lost the position to Villalobos as well, so M-Power now down to 12th position. Still waiting on these guys yet to make their pit stop. We haven't quite reached the halfway mark yet. We're coming up onto lap 15 out of 40, and just as I say that, and I'm trying to grab him, but all the drivers are going past. Operator, Dalking's teammate, is now making his pit stop. We're seeing that was Yamo and Godfather of Shift just going through the picture as well. Yamo, fan favourite, now up into P5. Is only temporary, but still pretty decent stuff by him. Operator is more than likely going to lose the position to Dahidi. He is, yes. But both, sorry, Dalking, not Dahidi. But both Dalking and Operator's pit stops were very, very quick. They were literally stationary for
now he ran into the
about
wall.
a second. Yeah, and that's what I was just about to say. It looked like that Operator very, very close to tagging the walls, both on the inside and outside of that little corner inside the pit lane. It's very, very tight in there, and if you do misjudge it, you can get yourself a little bit of aero or even potentially suspension damage as well, but it looks like his car is okay.
Yeah, I did actually see some very, very tiny scrapes on the left side of the bodywork on that Mercedes.
Did you?
I thought I did anyway. I don't know if that was he actually touched that wall, or if that another little door bang with someone just next to the rear wheel there. I thought I saw a few scrapes, but in any case, he has definitely lost a couple of seconds to Dalking in the pit stops, because he was about 3 seconds behind before. He's now 5 seconds behind the net leader in this race, and he's got a penalty. He's one of quite a few guys who have got a penalty actually. 1 second for CJB, Godfather Shift, and Yamo. CJB actually in the pits at the moment. Operator's got 1 second, so everyone has got a penalty has got 1 second, apart from Alexis, who's got 2. So nothing too major at the moment. But of course, you're seeing these guys really push the limit with AstroTurf on the exit of certain corners, case in point. And of course, if you run too wide, you will get a warning and a penalty. So it is a bit risky, even though if they do it the exact right amount, they will of course gain a little bit of time.
Yep. This will be an interesting one to see where CJB actually comes out in relation to Dahidi, Jardier, Villalobos and like. So he's lost the positions to Dahidi and Jardier. It's very, very close to that pit exit line, but it looks like he's going to get out ahead of Villalobos with some reasonable amount of comfort there as well. But yeah, it's only Suomi, Pantera and Godfather of Shift and Giamo who are the remaining drivers who are yet to make their pit stop. So it's the top 4 drivers who are currently in the standings who need to make their mandatory pit stop. Everyone else has managed to do so, and that looked like Godfather of Shift was a little bit wide there and kind of off track. That could potentially be slow down penalty territory.
Indeed. So these guys gonna enjoy a little temporary battle for the podium spots, I am sure. Yamo trying to get close enough to fight with the Godfather Shift, as we are looking back now at Empower, who is very close to the back of Villalobos, but he has actually been passed by Villalobos because, of course, he was ahead of them. Ahead of him previously when he was battling with Jihadi and Jadier. So Villalobos has made a move there, and CJB just having come out of the pits, just ahead of them as well. I'm not sure who really should be fastest out of these guys. I can't remember where they qualified, in all honesty. Except for the fact that Empower was 8th, but I can't remember if Villalobos and... Villalobos and CJB was actually ahead of them on the grid.
I think they were behind Empower. If I remember... Excuse me, sorry. If I remember correctly. Lacking a little bit of sleep. Sorry. Apologies for that. But yeah, I think Empower was ahead because he was just behind Jadier, and in front of him there Suomi, obviously ADAce, the Heidi, and the likes of Operator and Dow King. So they're seem to be pretty solid and relatively equal though in terms of actual lap pace in the race. Obviously CJB's previous lap time is not representative. That was his outlap from the pit stop that he made, which is why he's done a 1:47 to everyone else's 1:29s. But it seems like the fastest guys are kind of all lurking in and around the mid-29s, apart from Dow King. Dow King's there down in the 28s and continuing to extend his lead. He comes through the final turn now, making full use of that runoff grassy area on the outside there, and coming across the line to begin lap 18.
Yeah, 29.2 for him that time around. I think whenever you see a lap time in the high 28s, that's when you know the driver is really pushing and is an absolute top pace. I have seen a few of the high 28s. I did actually see Suomi put one in at some point, and he's currently, of course, the leader of the race. So I wouldn't rule Suomi out for a podium position, at least, in this race. I think Dalking and Operator might be a little bit out of reach, potentially, if he carries on like this, although ADS, of course, is only a second, or 2 seconds behind Operator. But yeah, Suomi could get into that mix if he keeps his pace up. Nearly was in the 28th last time out as well, so he's running very solidly indeed. And it's actually a little bit surprising for me that everyone bar the top 4 have made such an early pit stop, even before the halfway point in the race. Usually we see way more wait until late in the race to make their pit stop. So maybe for once Suomi doing that strategy will be sort of the opposite of everyone.
Yeah, it can certainly work out if he's banging in the quicker lap times and all the other guys are kind of in and around relatively close together. I don't think he will make that pit stop, considering he is now in the lead. He's got clear air in front of him. There's there's no lap traffic, so he'll probably go on for as long as possible. I imagine Pantera will do the same. He's a good 3 seconds behind, so he's not being affected by any dirty air. Neither is Godfather or Shift, but he does have Yamo relatively close, lurking in and around a second behind, so there's a little bit of pressure and encouragement coming from behind there. But I imagine these guys will probably stay out for as long as they can and see if they can make up some position without actually having to physically pass someone on the circuit, whereas the rest of these guys in and around 9th, 10th position are all running relatively close. They're doing good lap times, but surely their lap times are being hindered slightly or helped slightly by their cars in and around them, providing some dirty air, but also picking up a little bit of slipstream as well with Villalobos. Yes, slipstream. Slipstream of the cars in front, allowing them to reach a slightly higher top speed on those straights.
Indeed.
Sorry.
Man. Hashtag stripsleam. Right. So, Villalobos in a sandwich is what we're watching at the moment. And Mercedes, a Lamborghini sandwich. Nothing's really changed in this battle, to be honest. No one's really getting close enough to entertain us too much at the moment. So, watching Cryptic in 16th place. He's trying to keep, who's up behind him? Dakuza at base. So Dakuza has gained, even though, he has gained actually 4 positions from where he started at the back of the field, so it seems like to Desert Pack, the Bird Skin, Asterovich and Bow, 18th, 19th, 20th and 21st, all having relatively troublesome races, even though it, at least except for the guy who got disconnected earlier on, everyone has had sort of no extreme issues so far, which is good to see at least. As Villalobos might actually be close enough, or close to being close enough, to make a move on... oh,
that's a good
CJB,
run off the corner.
But CJB has actually managed to get a good run, even though he did run it very, very wide. So completely different lines there. Villalobos with a little bit of slipstream to get close, but not close enough.
I've well and truly thrown you off with that one, but yeah, get my words muddled up slightly, or should I say my word muddled up. Swarmy's in the pits.
Oh!
Swarmy, why are you in the pits?
Surprising
you
again!
Stayed out there. Yeah, you should have stayed out there. You would have.
He's gone bored of driving alone. He wants a battle.
Yeah, that could possibly be a reason. Yes, as we see Dow King, the net leader, coming through in the background of the shot. He's running a very solid race so far. Well, that's relatively slow stop by Swarmy. He's kind of stationary for a long time. Where is he going to come out in relation to his teammate? His teammate's just coming through the picture now, losing the picture to him. It's going to be behind Jardier and Heidi. It's going to be pretty close actually from these guys, but they will have the momentum and will pull away from him as they come out of the pit lane. But he's ahead of that CJB, Villalobos and Empower battle. When, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was... no, he was in front of him previously, wasn't he? Oh, no, he was behind.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think he was.
Actually, Suomi qualified in 5th, didn't he?
Oh, he might have been in front then, yeah.
Jardia qualified in 7th. The Heidi qualified in 4th. ADS in 3rd. So yeah, actually, Suomi has been jumped by Jardia. Obviously, 20 laps has taken place since Jardia made his pit stop. So maybe not too much of a surprise, but oh, that was Suomi. He lost the car.
Oh,
turn 5, yeah. And that was, yeah, that's going to really hurt him and maybe put him out of the battle for good in this race, actually, unless the guys had really hold each other up. That is a shame for Suomi, just maybe breaking his rhythm slightly, making that pit stop, and coming out making a mistake. And now, instead of looking forwards, he's got 3 cars in his mirrors with the CJB train knocking on his rear bumper.
Yeah. What I was doing was jumping up to this battle here because Jarmo is getting a little bit closer now to the rear of Godfather. Shift is taking 5 tenths of a second out of Godfather on the previous lap. Almost said 5 seconds there. Which has been quite an extreme gap closure, but yeah, Jarmo sensing a little bit of blood from the Porsche in front of him and wanting to do his fans proud and see if he can get a little bit closer and potentially take that position away from him. Obviously they are yet to make and serve their mandatory pit stops. They're pressing on, doing some pretty good lap times. Kind of Jarmo's previous lap was a low 29. He said that he felt really good. Yeah, he said he felt really good and actually kind of really got to grips with the Lamborghini in the previous round at Road America. Although his actual result wasn't brilliant, he finished 17th. He had a lot of really good. He had a pretty good race pace, and he was kind of not too far off the faster guys around him, and he had some good battles. He just he had some unfortunate luck and as well, and I think a couple of mistakes. So he's kind of taken that pretty good performance and pace that he showed last round and kind of used it to inspire and motivate him on for the rest of the season. And yeah, he's doing some pretty solid lap times, as is Godfather Shift so far in this race.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's getting close. Let's see if he fancies a move arrow, if he's just happy to sit behind at the moment. Godfather Shift has had a really poor exit, maybe got out of shape just off camera there, and now he has to take a slightly defensive line. I think Jamo does not want to get held up, even though he's been patient so far in the race. But now he's right there. Godfather's just turning into a little bit of a roadblock in that Porsche at the moment. So let's see if any of these guys will make a pit stop at the end of this lap to get out of this this battle. Of course, one of two of only the 3 cars who have yet to make their stop in this race, but nope, they're both happy to carry this on for quite a bit longer. Probably enjoying fighting in the podium spots, as Jamo did cut a corner slightly there. Both these guys have penalties, of course. They both had 1 second of penalties last time we looked, and Jamo in that slipstream. God, it's hard to say now. But not close enough into turn 1. So interesting battle, and Jamo getting some screen time, which I'm sure people are happy to see.
Yeah, you can see us fans screaming his name in the chat. So very, very happy with
Jamo!
that. Yeah, but I think the risk that Jamo runs at the moment is either he's got 2 battles ready to choose from. He can either continue to fight with Godfather or Shift as he's doing so at the moment and run relatively good lap times in relatively clear air, or alternatively you can pit and he'll probably end up in and around the kind of the midfield with Murph, Ripper, TMG Cryptic and Dakuzo. He could be in and around that sort of area, and obviously, yeah, he could just end up going into the pit lane hoping for some clear air, but then actually finding that you're right next to another car as
or even more than
going
one
very
car.
deep. Yeah, going deep there in turn 6. So it's pretty hard to kind of choose, especially when you don't really know where your competitors are.
Yeah.
Like
these guys have no clue at the moment what position they're actually fighting for in the grand scheme of things. Neither does Pantera, running in the lead at the moment, as I think we just lost someone from the race actually. We're down to 20 cars. Not sure who that was. Looks like at least it was none of the guys in the top 10.
I can't.
At Alexis possibly? I can't see at Alexis at the moment.
Yes, I think it may be him that we have lost. I'm sure we'll probably see him pop up in the chat. Oh, Leon the 6-1 is in the chat as well, though he hasn't raced this season. I was thinking of, for a moment there, Mr. Van Almen, who is absent from this race, as Godfather Shift having a very poor exit out of turn 3 once again. Jamo a little bit closer, or just as close as he was previously, but Godfather Shift kind of doing a pretty solid job of positioning his car well to block that route off. And instead, Jamo is having to follow him through for the moment. Well, he's got a pretty good run coming out of turn 5 and through 6. It's not going to be close enough unless he makes a wild dive to the inside for turn 7. Thinks better of it and slots in behind, but doing so, he has lost a bit of ground there to the Porsche in front of him. And instead, they continue on at the moment. Gap to himself and the net leader Dow King behind him, continuing to decrease as these guys are in 131s and 130 territory on that previous lap. So fair bit slower, losing touch to the current race leader, Pantera.
Yeah, Godfather Shift had a really slow lap actually. I think he might have picked up another penalty just looking, because he was 2 seconds slower than Jamo.
Good call. Yeah, he's now got a 2-second penalty. CJB's now on 4 seconds, with Villalobos now on 2 as well. And then 2 Desert Packers also got a 2-second penalty. So a couple of the guys picking up a few more penalties along the way. But yeah, it does seem like Jamo is being held up by Godfather of Shift a little bit there in front of him.
Jarmo Trulli. Oh god. Good one, Nick Meadow. Another former driver. Well, it's not quite Jarmo Trulli unless he's got a big train behind him, I would say. At the moment, he's the man actually attacking Godfather of Shift, but they are indeed dropping a little bit of time to Pantera as it stands, and the ace. Oh, he's caught up to Operator. Wow, so ADS is running really well, or Operator is not quite feeling too comfortable, or certainly not as comfortable as we have seen him. He's now 8 seconds off the net leader, who is Dalking, and yeah, fallen into the clutches of ADS. So this is not the Operator that we've been used to seeing so far this season. Of course, still fighting for a very good position, net P2, but ADS is might be fancying himself a fantastic result at the moment.
Yeah, he has dropped off the back a little bit there at the final corner. However, Jardier is pretty close to the back of De Heidi. De Heidi kind of looking a little bit defensive there, but wasn't really too necessary as Jardier isn't close enough. Turn 1 is a really difficult corner to actually overtake in. You have to be pretty much there alongside the other driver to actually make a move stick. It's more turn 2 here, which is a much better overtaking opportunities. There's actually see.
Oh, look at that!
Between ADS and I think Operator, possibly ADS. Oh, there's a little bit more door banging between De Heidi and ADS there. I think ADS went a little bit deep, maybe tagged the rear of Operator in front of him and doing the right thing of letting him go.
But he's letting him go too much.
Clutches of De Heidi as De Heidi's going on the inside. He's lost the position temporarily. He's now under threat from Jardier as well. Very unfortunate possible mistake there by ADS. Jardier trying to hang it around the outside though. Looks like that ADS does have the line and the momentum, although he's got the Heidi there in front of him, kind of slowing him up as well. Jardier is going to slide behind and hold onto the rear of that BMW for the moment, but he is very, very close there underneath that rear wing.
Yeah, and the Heidi will be happy with that, getting that overtake almost for free there. Didn't lose too much time making that move, so he'll be fancying Operator now. And Jardier is very, very close to the back of that BMW M6. Coming out of the final corner. Not, well, he's losing some time in the straight, but Jardier is now really pushing, of course. Kind of annoying for him that ADS dropped back and is now between himself and De Heidi, who has been following for all race, well, most of the race, since De Heidi made the pass early on. Let's see if he will make it go back to that situation now. ADS, of course, will be slightly flustered at the moment with that potential mistake and dropping the position to De Heidi. Jardier looking to the inside, but oh, that was very close indeed. I think ADS just left a tiny bit of room, and Jardier half backing out as well, even though I'm sure he really wanted to make that stick. But ADS has defended it well, and Jardier has to remain patient for another day.
Yep, Jardier closing up again underneath the braking zone of turn 3. And that is going to be frustrating for him, actually seeing that yellow Porsche in front now actually closing up onto the back of Operator as well. Only slightly though, nothing too major. ADS's previous lap time was 1:31, which is... Oh yeah, ADS, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking of De Heidi. I was like, how did that work when De Heidi actually overtook ADS? But of course, yeah. That was me just having a slight brain freeze. But, yeah, interesting stuff. This is heating up a little bit coming into the final 12 laps of this race, with Pantera still leading from car for shift, and then Yamo there occupying that current P3 spot.
Yep. And and again, just ADS making these slight mistakes, and Jardier's tapped the back of him at turn 1 and is facing the wall. He has to turn his car fully around. Don't on the grass for Jardier. Oh no. It's all gone wrong once again. Well, he did have a good race in round 4, but it's gone back to the first 3 rounds of the season where it's all gone wrong for Jardier. And he's now down to 12th place. Behind M-Power, behind CJB, behind Villalobos. All of those guys got a free position from Jardier. Just tapping the back of ADS. It's not really... Well, you can't really blame ADS for it. Of course, it was his mistake around the corner. But yeah, he has to save the car. And Jardier... Unfortunately, it was very close behind him, of course. It's going to be hard to react that quickly. And unfortunately for him, it just didn't react in time. Tapped the back of him and lost control. So that is really frustrating for the reigning 3-time champion. Looking back now at De Heidi, who was on the attack on the championship leader, the potential new champion, taking over from Jardier. Operator has a solid lead of 25 points on Dalking, the net race leader here. But of course, Dalking is looking to close that gap down a little bit as it stands. And if De Heidi was to get past Operator, that would really help Dalking as well, taking some more points off the championship leader. but those last few corners was going in operator's favour, and Heidi dropping a little bit further back. So I think Heidi once again just has to remain patient, as the operator was way too wide there. Of course, we know they like to push the limits with the AstroTurf and the runoff around here, but that was too much from operator. You could just see he lost time there to Heidi, who actually stayed fully on track, and maybe going a bit slowly as well off the track there just to avoid a penalty. And Heidi is now back in striking range.
Yeah, very, very close. Looking to see if he can take this next second position off of the Mercedes over in front as he gets very, very close there under braking in turn 3. Lloyd's tapping the rear of that Mercedes AMG in front of him. He's going to look to the inside. He has a quick glance, and the operator's giving him the room. I thought the Heidi was just going to fake the move, but operator gave him the room there. That's allowed the Heidi to get up alongside, but he wasn't really quite able to carry the momentum through the turn, with operator taking away the acceleration zone of the Heidi through that turn 4. So he's had to settle in behind again for the moment. Again, the Heidi going for that fake, just occupying the mirrors and trying to distract operator in front of him. Obviously, he wants to be careful when he doesn't do it so much that we get a reoccurring incident like we saw between the Ace and Jardier on the previous lap, as the Heidi is pretty close to the back of the Mercedes there in front of him. But the Heidi certainly looked like the man with the momentum at the moment. He's trying to apply that pressure to operator, who has done very, very good the first few rounds, and then last week was the first time that we kind of saw him really kind of, not necessarily out of his comfort zone, but definitely out of the top spot and having to really work for positions. The Heidi is very close once again on the run down towards turn 3.
Yeah, here we go. The Heidi is looking for that inside. Wasn't really sure which way to go, but in the end, operator's gone defensive. The Heidi trying to cut underneath, has to brake mid-corner to avoid hitting the back of the Mercedes, and that has given operator the chance to stay ahead once again. Will the Heidi go for another inside move into the fast left-hand corner? He will indeed, but operator might have learned from the move that Dalking pulled on him on the first lap, actually, and staying wide on that corner. Keeping the momentum on the outside, because that's how he did get overtaken on lap 1, and now he's using that to defend, it seems. Heidi is just trying to find any way through. As you said, operator's not had to fight this hard for positions in most of the races so far this season. He won the first 3. I think all of them might even have been from pole position as well. At least 2 of them. So yeah, operator here is putting his defensive skills now to work, as Damo is side by side with Godfather Shift finally into the hairpin. Let's see who will brake latest. Damo very squarely on the brakes, a little bit of door banging there as well. Godfather Shift forced wide. Damo definitely tried his best to avoid him there, and I think actually Godfather Shift might still have a chance to hang on, but Damo is just a fraction ahead as they come into the next heavy braking zone. This battle is far from over. Godfather Shift this time braking way later than the Lamborghini. And that is near contact again. Jam on the inside, actually getting a better run through the corner though. But will the outside or the inside line through the left-hander win out this time? We've seen the outside win, we've seen the inside win. At the moment it's neck and neck between these two guys, currently fighting for P2 in the race, even though they both still have to pit. And Jamo, can he finally make the move? He's been stuck behind Godfather Shift for so long, and there we go. What a move by Jamo. Took him half a lap, but he finally gets a position on the Porsche, and that is some clear air for him, probably for the first time all race.
Oh,
ow, it might not be for long though.
Oh, you got tapped there by Godfather Shift. That's a little bit naughty, unless Godfather Shift was very much out of shape.
I think he was out of shape. No, he's let him through actually.
He's letting go back through. So that was very kind of Godfather Shift, and yeah, kind of realised that was his mistake. So he's yeah, let Jamo go again to try and run his pace in front, but Dowking's now actually coming up behind them. Unfortunately, in and amongst all of this, we have missed out on the pass from the Heidi on operator. The Ace was pretty close there as well, but I saw that Jamo was very close to Godfather Shift, and obviously we needed to get some screen time for the fan favourite and show him making some moves for those high top tier positions in this race.
Yeah, and actually, Dalking, the net race leader, sitting fourth at the moment, he's picked up a penalty. He has got a 9-second lead at the moment, and let's see, his penalty is only 1 second, so nothing to be too worried about at the moment.
Literally, just to say that, the Heidi's also picked up a 1 second penalty as well. Like, literally just in the time that I've opened up the this timings board here.
Well, it's good timing for the timing board.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I imagine Dalking will probably be passing Godfather Shift relatively soon. They're in and around the 1 second mark between the two. Actually, I think they are around that 1 second mark. Godfather Shift is spinning in the pit lane.
Oh! Well,
I saw him going into the pits in the background, and I saw the Porsche going sideways. That is not good for Godfather Shift. That is definitely not what he will have wanted, and that will have cost him an awful lot of time and probably quite a few more positions than he would actually like.
Would have been interesting to see where he would come out, just to see sort of where Jamo as well would have started out when he pits. And Pantera as well is still running in the race lead, but of course that's not going to be quite representative with Godfather's Shift losing several seconds in the pit lane. So far he's dropped down to 13th place. We got Ripper coming down the main straight, just on the other side of the pit wall at the moment. He's going to go through into turn 1. Next car. Oh, we think we lost someone. We're down to 18 drivers actually. We have lost another car.
Godfather Shift was one. He just disappeared.
Oh, okay. So
possibly retiring to the pits, or maybe losing connection. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, well, maybe he was losing something coming into the pits at least. That made him spin. I'm not sure quite how he managed that. Maybe just put a wheel on the grass. It's easy to do, of course. Relatively tricky pit entry around here. I'm not sure who the other car we've lost. We started with 22, we're down to 18. So, as usual, a few cars not making it to the end of the race for various reasons, of course, which is a shame for them. But looking back now at ADA, who seems to have regathered himself after his earlier mistakes and, yeah, just the incident with Jadia, of course, which wasn't really anyone's fault. But he's now back on the attack and might still fancy himself a podium position, because we got Dalking in the net lead, we got the Heidi in net second, Operator in net third, and those two latter ones are right there, still ahead of ADAs.
Yeah, it's 2 Desert Pack and Godfather Shift have both retired. I can see 3 dots static there in the pit lane, indicating that they will have retired. But previously, I did clock that there was 1 driver who had retired to the pits, and then we've lost 1 entirely from the lobby. So I think 2 Desert Pack seems to be missing from the leaderboard, and Godfather Shift obviously we saw disappear. So those are those drivers who have retired and dropped us down to 18. But as you say, still battles going on. CJB still relatively close to the back of Villalobos. Fortunately, after Jardier's spin, he hasn't really made any ground on Empower. Well, previous lap he did take out 0.2 of a second. He popped himself into the high 28s, that 1 minute 28.9, but obviously there's still a decent gap between the two of them, like in around 2 seconds currently. But yeah, a few little battles to keep an eye on. These guys seem to be relatively close, and then it's that battle for net second place. That is the other drivers that we need to keep our eyes on.
Yep. See then, it looks like the Heidi is just ever so slightly pulling a gap on Operator. ADS trying to hang on. Is that his teammate actually, Suomi, is joining in, making it a 4-way scrap at the moment. That's a little bit of a gap down to Villalobos, running there in 8th. Reminder that we still have got the top 2, Pantera and Jamo, yet to pit. They will have to do so before the start of the final lap in this race. We only have 5 laps now remaining, so we're coming towards the end of this race, and that means that whoever in this group here wants to make up a position, certainly for ADAs and Suomi, the motivation will there to make make an attack on Operator to get onto the podium here, but they don't have long left in the race to do so.
Nope, not a moment. Just looking at the pace currently of Pantera and Yamo to try and figure out where they'll be coming out with their pit stops. I'm reckoning kind of in and around 30 to 35 seconds is going to be the length of the pit stop time, potentially. Unless anyone in the chat can confirm the actual length of or the amount of time that you'll lose in the pit lane. So I think Pantera will probably be coming in and around Murph. I think Yamo may be in and around the Ripper once he's made his pit stop, but they haven't got long to do it now. They've only got 2 or 3 laps remaining in which they can make their actual pit stop, and then obviously they need to complete 1 entire lap as well to avoid disqualification.
Yeah. And Rosso has made a very good point in the chat, actually, of course. The ADAs and Suomi will know about the Heidi and operators' penalties, which is very important, of course. The Heidi only got 1 second, which will be enough to save his second place at the moment. Operator, though, now has 3 seconds, which, as it stands, would just about put him behind both of the BMWs behind him. So they just need to stay close to Operator to actually gain that position.
Yeah, although having said that, I think ADS has lost a little bit of ground to our Operator.
Oh, and to Suomi.
Right, yeah, it's right there behind him. I did hear quite a bit of wheel spin come from ADS's car coming out the exit of turn 2 in the traction zone, but didn't really seem to wiggle around as such. But yeah, he's lost that ground to the driver in front. Although it seems like his sector 2 was pretty decent in comparison to his best lap, but yeah, he's got his pressure from his teammate now directly behind him ongoing, and be interesting to see if they actually battle each other or whether they are just going to try and focus on seeing if they can get closer to the Heidi to potentially pick up positions there from the penalty. But Suomi looking a little bit feisty.
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially now, as long as these guys can stay within 3 seconds of Operator, this is essentially a teammate battle for third, which Suomi might fancy, you know, even though the Ace has been running ahead of him all race long, qualified in third. He surely wants to finish in third, but Suomi is going for it on his teammate on the outside into the hairpin. ADA is forced to defend, and he's been yeah, he's been having some moments throughout this race, and is maybe not quite as comfortable as Suomi at this point of the race. And Suomi has carried a good amount of speed out of the corner. Will ADS let him go? Yes, it does. So Suomi up into net 4th at the moment, potentially net 3rd.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be very interesting now to see if Suomi can actually close up and continue the pace that he's shown in the last couple of laps. I think he has been there in the 28s. He's done a 28.7 on the previous lap, which is a very, very good lap time indeed. He may actually be able to close up and, yeah, see if they can nab that position off of Operator. Well, I don't think, if they're going to try and get past Operator, I think they're just going to lose out more to the Heidi and completely eliminate any opportunity there of making that one stick. Now, Pantera and Yamo are now on their final lap that they complete. They can, well, their final opportunity to make a pit stop. They need to pit on this lap.
Yep, they will do lap 39 out of 40 is what we're on. Pantera is being cheered on by Carl Sparrigan for the win. Unfortunately, he still has to make that mandatory pit stop. He's been running in the lead for quite a long time now, as we have had an unusual race in terms of pit strategies. Very few drivers waiting until late in the race to make their pit stop, whereas usually we see more pitters late than early. But yeah, Pantera and Jamo in the top 2 at the moment still need to make the mandatory pit stop. So once we start the next lap, we'll see exactly where they're going to filter out in the actual pack. Just looking at his 8. Well, he's got 6.7 seconds down to Jamo, who is a couple of seconds ahead of Dalking. He's still got a comfortable gap on the Heidi. So here we go then. Pantera, will he avoid spinning into the pit lane like the other Porsche did? Of course, for the shift, yes, he will. Nice, calm pit entry for him, as Dalking is going to carry around the final corner to start the final lap of the race.
We just lost Pantera.
What?
We have just lost Pantera as he's coming into the pits. I don't know whether he's retired or not. It seems like there is another stationary dot other than Yarmo currently in the pit lane, but we're going into the final lap and Pantera's retired. We've gone from 18 down to 17. This is a very long stop by Yarmo as well.
It's a very long stop, and actually Suomi's got a penalty now.
Yeah,
that could be crucial.
I noticed that as well. His teammate is not too far behind. What is the penalty that Suomi has? Just the 1 second.
Just 1 second.
So, despite that pass on track,
hey, the Ace might still get third.
Yeah.
If he can stay within a second of Suomi, and they both can stay within, close to operator. Yeah, 3 seconds for the Ace to operator, and 2 in the case of Suomi now. So this is
no.
this is a penalty battle.
Saying that, people saying in the chat that the Pantera possibly DQ'd in the pit lane.
Oh, what?
Either way, Dalking now coming through the final turn, providing that he can keep the car, well, somewhat on the track, obviously using that runoff area, but he's got to come across the line to take his very... Is it his first?
It is his first win in the AOR GT3 Tier 1 League. Finally! It's been a long time coming, and let's see how they will filter out from second place down. Heidi keeps second. ADS goes up to third place as a result of completing the race without penalties. Suomi goes ahead of operator in fourth and fifth. Jardier, as well without penalties, jumps up to sixth place across the line ahead of Villalobos and CJB. Murph, I think, is still out there on track, coming across now. He will be in ninth place. Final man in the top 10 will be the Ripper. Empower did drop a few positions throughout the course of the race.
He's got a lot of damage in front of his car.
Yep.
Yeah, Cryptic across the line. Jarmo coming home in 13th in the end. I think, unfortunately, with that long pit stop, he probably could have been a position or two higher. Yeah, Dakuza 14th, Nestorovich 15th, and then Bo Duberski. Yeah, Bo Duberski, and Pantera, got DQ'd. So did Godfather Shift.
Oh,
they both got DQ'd.
Wait, both the Porsches?
Yes.
The pit lane really doesn't like Porsches.
I think Godfather Shift could have been done for potentially driving the wrong way in the pit lane because he spun in the pit lane.
Maybe.
Would have been very unfortunate.
Pantera definitely did not spin, so...
No, I think he just didn't slow down.
Well, that's unfortunate for the Porsche crew. But we have a new race winner in the AOR GT3 Tier 1 League on the PC side. Dalking after a season and a half of trying, being so close on several occasions. My comment earlier in the race did not curse him, luckily, so he has taken that victory for round 5 of season 12 at the Red Bull Ring. Heidi and AVAs joining him on the podium. I think that might be AVAs' first podium. On the PC side, of course, a former Xbox champion way back in some of the earlier seasons. And yeah, third consecutive podium for the Heidi after returning to the league. Suomi, just like ADAs, celebrating their card switch with a really good race, fourth place for him. Operator, championship leader, will have dropped quite a few points actually to Dalking, his closest challenger and teammate. Let's just quickly check what the points gap is that you get between first and fifth. So you get 50 points for first place, you get 28 for fifth, which means there's gonna be a 3-point gap in the championship now, I believe. Actually, who took pole? That was operator, wasn't it? So he will get one extra bonus point for the pole. So that's 4 points then. It will be halfway through the season between operator and Dalking for the season 12 championship.
Very good. Very good and entertaining race. Really nice dynamic with the strategies playing out over the course of that one. Was very interesting to watch out how that unfolded. It's quite unfortunate to see a couple of the people having some slight issues. Shadier obviously making contact with the back of ADAce with ADAce's mistake, but no real fault to blame on either of the two drivers there. It was just very unfortunate with how close they were to each other. And then obviously Godfather of Shift and Pantera getting DQ'd coming into the pit lane to serve their mandatory pit stops. That's Yeah, unfortunate for those guys. But we're doing some driver interviews. Do we have any drivers to interview?
It does look like we have a couple. Dal King
Excellent.
being one of them, of course, the new race winner. So let's drag a couple of guys in here. So then, Mr. Dal King, it finally happened!
Yeah, boy, I can't believe it. What the hell? Oh my God.
I told you. If you keep on going, just keep on plodding away. It will come.
I'm retiring now. That's me done. I've won my race. Oh dear.
Mate,
What a
you're
race,
still in
man.
the championship fight. You can't retire now. Let's make let's make a few more wins.
Yeah, hopefully. Damn.
How are you feeling?
Over the moon. Over the moon. Them last 5 laps though, I'm sweating. Honestly. I knew I had a gap and I was like, stay away from the curbs. Just like trying to hit my marks, you know, because I could see how fast everyone was. That's why I tried to gap everyone at the beginning of the race, you know.
Yeah.
Damn.
And of course, crucial part of the race, lap 1, when he got past your teammates.
Yeah,
was that the plan to get past him that quickly?
Yeah, I had to. I had to break the toe, you know, from the other, because I knew I was fast, but I knew if they like latched onto me, and then all of a sudden they're in the toe, they can sort of get like especially the BMWs with the turbos. We was lacking a bit of power here. They could just drive around us, and then it'd be a nightmare trying to get back around them. And especially even the Heidi and the Porsche, I know how super quick he was. So yeah, it was just about trying to break the gap from everyone, get rid of the toe, and then just try and hit my marks, you know, put in as many consistent laps as I could, and then get that pit stop right, which it all worked out very well, thankfully for that.
Yeah. Finally came together with no issues for you, which
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool to see. And yeah,
Right.
it's been a season and a half, hasn't it, waiting for that win.
Yeah, we're only 5 races in, we've still got another 5 to go, yeah.
Yeah, you know, let's make it 6 in a row. Or what?
Hopefully.
Well, a really good job, Dal King, and congrats on your first win in the league.
Thanks.
So then, another man who I'm sure will be pretty happy after that one. A new podium, well, podium winner, I guess you can say. 8DAs!
Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you feeling after that one?
I mean, I'm feeling happy because it's my first podium, but I feel bad at the same time because
Aww.
it wasn't third on the road necessarily. It was penalties that got me there. Suomi picked up a penalty in the final like 2 laps, which handed me that extra 1 second penalty to him. That I jumped him then, and I had a bit of a slide. I don't know whether you caught it on the stream, but I had contact with Jardier again. We seem to be magnets together on the track. I don't know why, but every time we come together, someone comes off worse. So I had a bit of a slide into turn 1, and I was just sort of catching the rear end, straightening it back out, and I felt a touch in the rear. Looked in my rear view mirror, and he's there pirouetting out of turn 1. So I feel bad on for him because he was right up there potentially for a podium, and he ended up only getting 6th, I think. So sorry to him, but yeah, I'll take a podium.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like at times in the race you weren't you didn't seem too comfortable with the car, making a few tiny mistakes, but in the end, of course, keeping really good pace throughout. So maybe it doesn't feel as sweet getting third, not on the track, but still, penalties are part of the game, you know. So it still counts.
Yeah, I mean, we all discussed, didn't we, before the race, that we'd use the in-game limits, so you were able to use them AstroTurf runoffs to some extent anyway, until the game finally cut you if you went right off them. But yeah, I suppose it's part of the game, and that's part of driving around it and trying to not pick up the penalties. But
Exactly.
yeah, it's the car was a bit of a handful at some points in the race, but I think it was more lapses in concentration and then realizing, oh god, I've got to get on it, and then trying to drive it quick and kind of overdriving it a little bit. So yeah, still I'm happy.
Good to hear. And yeah, not picking up penalties was the one thing that I used to be good at. So it's good to see that I can gain in podium. Right, good job, ADAs, and yeah, hopefully more podiums to come for you.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, well done as well to Dal on his first win. I know he's been
Yeah, boy.
he's definitely been wanting that one. He's definitely getting on the bubbly and maybe a kebab as well.
Oh dear. And it's my birthday tomorrow.
Ah,
Happy birthday for them then, mate.
Thank you.
Early birthday present.
Good
Yeah,
timing,
you know.
good timing. Right then, I think that's gonna be it for the driver interviews. There's no one else who has put their name forward to talk to us, unfortunately. So, Yoki, what a race that was. Red Bull Ring always provides some good stuff. We're now halfway through the season. How's that happened?
Well, as time goes on, obviously you progress through the various days, and with the schedule being laid out in advance, eventually we come around to each round, and we obviously commentate and provide the coverage of each round. And it just so happens that we're now, just completed round 5. We're now halfway through the season, and it's round 6. Is it next week? Do we have a break week, or is it the following week?
Carrying on, straight on through the whole season. Every week.
No breaks.
No breaks. Actually, let me double check on the calendar here. I got it up. So we are now on 6th March, I believe, which means 13th March is going to be next week, and that is when we have the Nürburgring GP.
Excellent.
So,
very good circuit. That should be good fun with the GT3 cars, and hopefully provide some nice racing action there as well.
Absolutely. So, that's gonna be it for us in the commentary box. We hope everyone who has joined us for watching this race has enjoyed it. Really appreciate you tuning in, and make sure you do the same next Wednesday at the same time for round 6 of the season, where the championship battle between Dalking and Operator will carry on. I've been Fisi, and thanks as always, Yoki, for joining me in the box.
Not a problem. My pleasure as always.
Cheers everyone for watching. Cheers to all the drivers for providing the entertainment. Cheers to all the coordinators for making the leagues happen, and of course to our sponsors, Elgato, Thrustmaster and GT Omega, for being awesome and supporting us as well. So we'll see you next week at the Nürburgring for another hopefully cracking race in the GT3 League. Good night.